So, what would happen if you asked for a shortcut to an easy life, but instead, you got a secret map to your own soul? Well, that's exactly the journey we're diving into today. We're going to unpack a fascinating conversation between a father and his son that kicks off with a simple request, but ends with, well, a pretty profound secret.
It all begins with this. You gotta love the confidence here. A teenager named Evan straight up asks his father for the ultimate life hack. But here's the thing, this isn't just some random question. Nope, it's for his school assignment. And Evan, he's got his own very specific agenda.
Okay, so the promise is pretty simple. Evan's philosophy teacher gives him an assignment. Go ask your dad for the most important wisdom he's ever learned. But Evan, being a teenager, immediately translates that into something else. He reframes the whole thing to be about him and how he can get an easy life.
And right here, you can see the huge disconnect. On one side, you have the assignment, which is this deep, thoughtful question about lifelong wisdom. And on the other, you have Evan's version. Just give me the cheat codes. This gap right here is what sparks the entire conversation that follows. So Evan's dad is all set to share his wisdom, but Evan just throws up a wall. He basically argues that adult wisdom is totally useless for a modern teenager trying to survive in a super high-stakes social world. He's got what he calls a relevance filter, and his dad's worldview, well, it's just not getting through. And here's where you can really see their two worlds just colliding. Evan's reality is all about the now. It's digital, it's immediate, social media reputation, relationships, cancel culture, those are his daily battles. His dad's concerns, the economy, foreign wars, the afterlife. To Evan, that stuff sounds incredibly abstract and boring. He's convinced that kind of talk would put his entire class to sleep.
And this is why he's so desperate for advice that's relevant and tactical. See, he's not just being dramatic here. He's living in a world where one single comment, maybe even taken out of context, can get you slapped with a label and basically exiled from your social life. The pressure is absolutely real, which explains why he needs advice that helps him survive today, not in some far-off distant future. So trying to find some common ground, Evan throws out an idea. He asks his dad for advice on how to avoid negative feelings, stuff like pain and depression. He figures, hey, that's a topic my friends would actually listen to. But his dad's answer is the absolute opposite of what he was expecting. His dad just completely flips the script. He suggests that maybe, just maybe, these negative feelings aren't a curse we need to avoid or medicate away. What if they were actually a valuable tool? A gift, even? This is really the first piece of seriously counterintuitive wisdom he drops, and it challenges the whole idea of what pain is even for. So here's the core idea. These feelings aren't the problem, they're the signals. The dad says pain is a sign that your soul is expanding. Sorrow means you've lost your direction. And depression, well, that's a signal that you're not connected to your inner source of purpose, what he calls the joy flame. You can almost feel Evan's panic here, right? He was probably expecting some grounded, practical dad advice like work hard, pay your bills on time. Instead, he gets this deeply philosophical, almost mystical guidance. He's absolutely terrified his friends are going to laugh him out of the room if he brings the stuff to class. All right, so the father decides to try a different angle. Virtues. Concepts like humility and justice, they're timeless, right? Well, he's about to find out that in his son's world, the actual definitions of these virtues have been turned completely upside down. So first up is humility. Dad describes it as being a modest, selfless servant. Evan immediately shoots that down. In his world, he says, humility just gets you trampled on. Society now pushes pride, celebrating your unique identity and wearing it like armor to deflect any and all criticism. Okay, next is justice, the old school idea that your actions have consequences and that merit should be rewarded. Evan's like, nope, not anymore. He explains that this new idea of extended mercy is taking over, where forgiveness has no limits and consequences are seen as degrading. It's the whole everyone gets a trophy mentality. And the last big clash is over hope. For his dad, hope is all about patiently working towards a future goal. But for Evan's generation, that's just way too slow. It's been replaced by fantasy, this belief that you can create your reality right now just by declaring it. Why hope for a better future when you can just manifest it with a single social media post? So after all of his timeless wisdom gets shot down, the father has a breakthrough. He realizes he's been talking about the symptoms, not the actual cause. And that's when he finally reveals his real secret. It has nothing to do with virtues or pain.
It's about mastering the one thing that powers everything else, your own mind. And this is it, the core concept, self-mastery. It's the skill of actually developing conscious control over what you think and what you feel. Now, according to the dad, this isn't just some self-help trick for a happier life. No, this is the fundamental skill for navigating reality itself, and it has consequences that go way beyond our physical world.
Okay, now here is where things get really wild. The dad claims that our thoughts and feelings aren't just private, internal experiences. He says they actively shape our reality, that they crystallize some kind of mystic energy into actual physical forms. In our world, he says, that process is slow, but in the afterlife, it's instantaneous. Whatever you think, you create instantly.
And that is the danger. Without self-mastery, your mind becomes this angry bull. It's fueled by every single violent thought or negative feeling, many of which are planted there by media and video games. And if you're in a world of instant creation, an uncontrolled mind literally creates its own personal hell. It's a powerful and, honestly, a pretty terrifying metaphor.
So what's the solution? How do you master this angry bull? Well, the father gives Evan a final, crucial choice. He tells him he can't do it alone, he's going to need a guide. And that choice comes down to two very different paths: becoming an apprentice or staying your rebel.
And the choice is really stark when you lay it out. The apprentice finds a master, learns discipline, and gets guidance and inspiration. The rebel, which, let's be honest, sounds way more romantic to a teenager like Evan, goes it alone, distrusting any kind of authority or ancient wisdom. But as his dad points out, that path leaves you totally isolated and incredibly vulnerable. And this is the father's haunting final warning. That romantic image of the lone wolf, the rogue rebel, it has a really dark side. Because in the real wilderness, lone sheep, they don't usually survive. It's a pretty stark warning against the kind of arrogance that makes you think you can just figure everything out on your own.
So in the end, Evan doesn't get that easy shortcut he was looking for. He doesn't get a simple list of life hacks to present to his class. Instead, he's left with something way more complex, way more profound, a deep mystery about his own mind and the incredible challenge of actually mastering it. And that really brings us to the final question. It's not just for Evan, it's for all of us. If our thoughts and our feelings are truly the building blocks of our reality, it kind of forces us to ask, who's actually in the driver's seat? Is it you, or is it the angry bull?